Hello, well today we're going to look at some converting measures. We're at lesson 3.6 and we're going to do that by using ratio reasoning to convert units of measure. So we're still going to look at our ratios, our two numbers, and we are going to try and solve some converting measurements. The first thing we're going to do is, if you notice, I have a picture, or in your math book you have a picture of a gallon container, and then you have over here, as you can see, some liter containers. Well, if we had to kind of write a unit rate that estimates the number of liters per gallon. So if I would look, this is 1 gallon. So I would say that 1 gallon. And if I had to estimate, I'd look here. Well, I've got 1, 2, 3. And it's not quite a full 1 to 4, and it's more than half. I would say it's 3 3/4 liter. This is called the. Do I know exactly for sure if that's what it is? I don't know. It's an approximation. And so because it's an approximation, we kind of do something that looks like this. It's kind of a squiggly line, and you'll see it in your math book some more. This is an approximation. It means it's about 3 3/4. We don't have an exact measurement. All right, so let's look here at the next picture we have here. I'll find our two numbers, our ratio. This time we have a liter and it's filled, and we're comparing it to the gallon. If you notice, the gallon is about right there. So I would say that I have 1 liter, and it is approximately, it's less than half. I'm going to say it's about 1/4 of a gallon. GAL for gallon. And remember, I don't know if it's exactly equal, so I'm not going to put an equal sign. So I'm going to put that about or approximate symbol. So I'm saying that 1 liter is approximately 1/4 a gallon. So I'm looking at two different numbers representing two different things, a ratio, and I'm trying to find out a liter compared to a gallon. All right, so we will need our math notebooks now. We're going to write some things down in our math notes. If you can see, it says U.S. customary system. U.S. customary system, as you're writing it, that's down in your notebooks, is a system of measurement that contains units for length and capacity and weight. Obviously, U.S. meaning that these are the kinds of things that we here in the United States use for measuring things. So the three things we're going to look at, like I said, is length, capacity, and weight. So if you would write those 3 words down. Well, most of us know when we measure things, let's change our lighting here a little bit. When we measure things here in the United States, we measure things in, long things will be considered in mile. We can measure in yardstick. We can measure in feet, and obviously inches. Those are the measurements that we use here. That's why it's a U.S. customary system. This is for length. There are other things that we can measure. Like I said, the next thing we have here is capacity. So go ahead and make sure you have these things written down. So capacity is talking about things that contains things. So for example, the capacity of how much I could hold in my hand. It could be liquid. It could be something else, but it contains things. And so when I contain things or put something inside, a lot of times, like I said, we look at liquid. I think of something, for example, gallons. We have a gallon. We put our liquids into. We measure a gallon. We have quarts, which are a little bit smaller. We have pints. Smaller than a pint is a cup. We could even go smaller than a cup, and we have something called a tablespoon and a teaspoon. Those are all the U.S. customary system of measurement here that we use in the United States. All right. The next thing I said was weight. Well, when we weigh things, if something's really heavy, like a truck, we would weigh that in what we call tons. It's a ton. Otherwise, we can weigh things as like when you go to the doctor, you're weighed in pounds. And then, of course, there are things that are even smaller that we have to weigh. For example, a paper clip. I wouldn't be able to put that on a regular pound scale because it's less than a pound. So we would measure something what we call ounces. Now, the United States happens to be one of the places that uses all of these kind of measurements, but most of the world uses a different sort of measuring system, and that's called the metric system. The metric system. Okay, so we're going to write in our notes here the word metric system. Now we're going to do a lot more with the metric system as we move along in our math class, but for today I'm just kind of wanting to introduce to you what the metric system is. Well, the metric system also has length, capacity, and weight, but we're going to make our list a little bit different this time. Okay, so we have here length, capacity, and weight. And all I want you to write underneath length is we're going to use some sort of measurement with the word meter. The metric system uses meter. Capacity, remember, is like a container, right? A container of something that holds something. Well, in our picture we had earlier with the gallon, it's called a liter that contains liquid. And the weight that they use is called grams. These are the three words that we will use for all measurements. We're not going to make big lists like this, but we are going to make some stairs. And what I mean by stairs is you will notice here's what the stairs are going to look like. Okay. So we're going to start up here on the far left, and I want you to write the word kilo. The next step down is a hecto. The next step down is a deca. Then we're here in the middle, which is considered our base. Then we have a deci, centi, and milla. Now, like I said, we're going to learn a lot more about this later, but this is kind of, if you can see what these steps are, this will be helpful. Meter, liter, and grams are considered our base. So our base here would be called meter, liter, and grams. Meaning I could have a kilometer, a kiloliter, a kilogram. Hecto does the same thing. Hecto can go with hectometer, hectoliter, hectogram. Decameter, decaliter, decagram. Then here is just our base, meter, liter, gram. Then we can add these prefixes as well. Decimeter, deciliter, decigram. Same with centimeter, centiliter, centigram. And finally, we have millimeter, milliliter, and milligram. This is what we would call a power of 10. So for example, if I had 1 meter, 1 liter, 1 gram, whatever it is, if I wanted to find out what that was equivalent to in a deca, that would be considered, it's 10 times larger. So this would be 10 times larger. Here would be 100. And then this would be 10 times larger, which would be 1,000. If I had 1 meter, remembering multiples of 10, but I'm going down, instead of it being 10 whole number, it would be 1/10. This would be 1/100th, and this would be 1/1000th. Okay, and like I said, we will practice more with this, but I wanted you to have this in your notes so that you can kind of have a little bit of background knowledge. All right, so on our next piece of paper, in order for us to do some converting measurements, we have to have a little bit of background knowledge of things. So for example, in our notes, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to go ahead and draw, a pretty big box like this. And we're going to label that 1 gallon. I want you to go ahead and make another box the same size or as close to the same size as you can. 1 gallon, 1 gallon. Well, 1 gallon is the same as, break this into 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4 quarts. This is still 1 gallon. This is a quart. Quart. So this is 4 quarts. 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. Well, let's make another gallon box down here. As close to the as you can. So we have 1 gallon, 1 gallon, 1 gallon. 1 gallon is the same as 4 quarts. So let's go ahead and make our 4 quarts. And if I took those 4 quarts and I split them in half like this, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pints. This is a pint. These are pints. So this is 8 pints. 1 gallon is equal to 4 quarts. 1 gallon is equal to 8 pints. We can put P's in all of these, so we know that these are all pints. And let's do one more. Okay, let's make our 4 quarts. Let's make our pints. And then I want you to take those pints and I want you to cut the pints in half. We're going to put the letter C inside all of these boxes. C stands for cups. So we have 16 cups. So 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. It also equals 8 pints. And it also equals 16 cups. Having a little bit of this background knowledge will assist us in doing some converting of measurements. All right, so we kind of have dealt with the capacity, the things that contain things. Now we're going to deal with a little bit of length. I'm not going to do all of the lengths in our notes, but one of the ones I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to go ahead and make a really long rectangular box for me. And it can be skinny like this. And we're going to pretend that this is a yard. It's 1 yard. And then underneath it, I'm going to ask you to make obviously another one of equal length, kind of like what we did with our gallons. And we're going to take this and this is 1 yard, this is 1 yard, but 1 yard is actually the same as 1, 2, 3, 3 feet. So this would be a foot. This would be a foot. And this would be a foot, meaning 3 feet equal 1 yard. And let's make one more. So we have here our 3 feet. This, a foot, is actually equal to, this is 12 inches. So there's 12 little inches inside of a foot. So this would be 12 inches and 12 inches. So if you notice, 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. How many inches would be a yard? Well, 12, 12, and 12 would be 36 inches, equal 1 yard. All right, so the last things I'm going to have you write down in your notes, and we're going to need this in order for us to work on our homework and things that we're going to do tomorrow. In order to be able to solve some of these converting measurements, you have to have a basis or a background knowledge of things. So for example, you need to know that 1 gallon is equal to 4 quarts. We drew a picture in our notes. This is making it just written in written form. So if you'd write this down, then we also know that 1 quart equals 2 pints. We had a picture of that. We know that 1 pint equals 2 cups. And then something that we did not draw in our notes, but I'd like for you to have in your notebook for tomorrow is that 1 cup then actually equals what we would call something called 8 fluid ounces. Okay, these are not the ounces that we use to weigh things like as measurement, but this is fluid ounces. So there's 8 fluid ounces inside 1 cup. Now, all of these things here are what we would consider capacity, volume. They hold liquids, okay? The other things I want you to put in your notes is I want you to put the one about length. 1 mile, which is what we measure long distances, miles. 1 mile is equal to 1,760 yards. One yard, we found out in our notes, is equal to 3 feet. And you found out that 1 foot then is equal to 12 inches. And these are the things we use here in the United States for measuring length. We've done capacity, we did length, and then the last thing we're going to put down in our notes is weight. 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. And that 1 pound is equal to something called 16 ounces. Now, it's important for you to have all of this written down in your notes because it's going to help you on some problems that we are actually going to solve tomorrow in class. So lesson 3.6 is going to be something that we're going to work on for a couple of days. All right, so your assignment is real simple for tonight. You're going to look at page 146 in your math book, and you are going to do problems 1 through 12 all. Okay, let's look at that real quick here. Looks like this. Okay, you're going to do some unit rates, 1 through 4, which we've been doing. You're going to have to do some least common multiple, which is a review. Write the prime factorization of these numbers. We've done that before. If you don't remember, look back in your textbook to find out how to do that. And then you have to write these as products. 12 simple problems. When you're done with those 12 problems, you'll notice that I put here. The other thing I'm asking you to work on is it says you're going to do this and mystery pictures in your Google Classroom. When you open up your Google Classroom, there's some mystery pictures in there where you have to write the answer to the mathematical problems you see, and then the picture will start coloring in and you will find out what the hidden picture is. All right, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask the teachers in the classroom or send me an email. Have a great day.